Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and through the transitive property, a Christmas Blast, a Die Hard WarioWare style game, is a Christmas game. It might even be the perfect Christmas game. Look, I know the answer to, hey, what's your favorite Christmas movie? Die Hard is seen as a really tedious thing for people to do. I understand that it's very easy to imagine a guy saying that and being obnoxious about it, and then wanting to follow up like, oh, get it. I haven't encountered that in the wild. I've never dealt with that. I'm going to suspect that it happens a lot more to women than it does to white guys who are very likely to be the kind of person who says that thing themselves. I've never found it something I have to personally endure, so the overblown complaining about it strikes me as a little unnecessary now, with some time to reflect. But it strikes me as an interesting conversation to have. See, why do we argue about the Christmassiness of Die Hard? It's set during Christmas. It uses trappings of Christmas. Material objects that represent Christmas are part of the story. There is an anticipation of the date. The timing of Christmas is important. There's an arrival that you're trying to be ready for. There's a clear distinction between naughty and nice, and different ways of obtaining a appropriate reward. Selfish actions versus selfless actions. There's a lot of stuff that, if you do actually look at it at arm's reach, does look like the principles that you would see in a Christmas movie. Now, you could argue that Die Hard is lacking in the kind of sentimentality, or maybe even the family friendliness that we would normally associate with a Christmas movie. But the whole thing is also kind of a romantic action movie, and admittedly, it's the kind of romantic action movie where mostly it's all fixated on what one dude thinks of the arrangement, rather than necessarily the woman who stopped being married to him, which is not a great sign. But we have a history of adult comedy Christmas movies. We have, in part thanks to a history of sitcoms and other action TV shows doing Christmas episodes, a history of Christmas action as well. Yet, the idea of Die Hard as a Christmas movie presents a conversation. And usually it's a conversation where someone is being complained about. Why do we argue about it? It's not like there's a clear nomenclature, a clear cladistic model for Christmas moviness. It's not like there is a thing that can necessarily stand head and shoulders above everything else and say, I am going to make clear sense of a shared cultural moment. If you want to define what is or is not a Christmas movie, you have to define a Christmas movie. You have to set up some set of rules that qualify what does or doesn't count. And it's too complicated an idea for there to be a criteria that will somehow exclude Die Hard and not exclude other stuff that more or less works. And the fact is, we talk about it this way. It is a conversation topic. People will argue about it. And if a body of the population are willing to argue for and a body are willing to argue against, that indicates that even if one side in the conversation started out being dicks about it, odds are good they have at this point recruited people who sincerely and genuinely think that. And eventually, when it comes to this kind of genre and categorical use, you're gonna wind up losing that battle over time. People are either going to forget about it, or it's probably going to wind up being accepted as a Christmas movie. Asterisk, until it's just a Christmas movie. This is, of course, part of the game, and I don't mean a Christmas blast. I mean the game of arguing about whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. There are a lot of these kind of folk games that we kind of don't really recognize as being games at this point, where the whole point is to entangle with someone else, where there's not necessarily such a thing as a clear victor or a clear loser, but you do approach it with the energy of an argument, even though everyone involved knows that it's facile. And indeed, you can get people who play this game in a way that is cruel or unfun, where they want to use it as an opportunity to dominate and control the conversation rather than people who want to use it to have that moment of entanglement, that moment of having a bit of a laugh. Don't play games with people you wouldn't like to hang out with. In the end, what people mean when they say Die Hard's not a Christmas movie is usually it doesn't look like a Christmas movie to me. Like I said that, there are lots of people to whom a Christmas movie is defined by looking like what they think Christmas looks like. White landscapes, snowmen, people in big fuzzy clothing, red hats, candy canes. Essentially, the way Christmas looks in one small part of one continent. I'm Australian. It's the first month of summer here. Christmas in my lifetime has been defined by fire warnings and intense heat and occasionally blasting summer rain right around 4 in the afternoon. Christmas is something we do because we are still ultimately a Christian culture that derived from the British Empire. And for some reason, we still do stuff like Santa in the mall Santa outfit with the big heavy coat and the white fur trim. And we sell Christmas cards with snow on them, but that's not how Christmas looks. Christmas here looks like sitting on the back porch looking at the dogs run around on the grass while you're in shorts and a shirt, trying to minimize the effort you have to move while you're enjoying cold meat and seafood and listening to the family talk about what they've done throughout the whole of the year. Christmas, to me, is nothing like what I'm told Christmas inherently is. And that's why this game of playing with Die Hard, of playing with the idea of what a Christmas movie even is, of challenging people on that rudimentary assumption about Christmasness, is a little bit fun to me. This game was made for a game jam. It is essentially someone having made WarioWare, but it's Die Hard. And all of the puzzles are single moments from Die Hard. Single moments that make sense, even if you haven't watched Die Hard recently. The actual puzzle kind of just explains itself very quickly in the short bridges between moments. Lines of dialogue, flashes of character, all that stuff just kind of works because odds are good you have a Die Hard-shaped hole in your head. You've had an experience, and Die Hard is a reactive surface that your brain can stick to. And it's explicitly called a Christmas blast. This is a game that says, I am a Christmas game that looks nothing like what you necessarily would think Christmas looks like if your basic assumptions go back to one small reference pool about what Christmas looks like in one part of the world for one group of people who practice it. The game is free on itch. It's pretty fun. It's extremely hard. The difficulty ramps up much faster than I'm used to on a WarioWare like. And I found it good for a good 15-20 minutes of fun. I recommend you give it a shot, especially if someone can see you playing it at a family gathering. You can go, oh yeah, if you think you're so good, you have a go. And you can watch them cry about how hard it is to find Mr. Takagi too.